we forget how important it is to take a break. And I really like the last line that Paulo said. It's taking a break doesn't mean that you're quitting. So please remember that taking a break doesn't mean that you are quitting. Welcome to Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. Before I start with this episode, I would just like to thank each and every one of you that is listening here right now. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode. I know you guys are busy with your usual routines and your usual schedules, and you clicking on this episode and joining me in the journey of self-improvement to self-betterment through self-care and self-love means the whole world to me. And I'm really excited to share these kinds of episodes with you because I know that I'm not the only one who can relate to this kinds of stuff. So again, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really appreciate you listening here right now. So now today's episode is all about something that has been bothering me for the past few weeks because I personally is seeing this, whether it's on Twitter and Instagram, I am seeing a lot of people experiencing this kind of issue, and I really want to talk about this because I feel that not only people can relate to this, I feel that we need to have more conversations around these kinds of topics so that we know how to handle these kinds of issues. You know, we need to talk about this more so that it could become more open in our society so that we can actually address it properly. So today's episode is all about burnout. Now, what is a burnout? Now, burnout is a state of emotional, physical, mental exhaustion caused by prolonged and excessive stress. And you may feel this sometimes when you feel overwhelmed, or sometimes you feel you have lack of motivation, you don't want to do stuff, and you're not used to doing this or feeling this stuff, or you're not used to feeling this way towards these kinds of stuff. You usually have the enthusiasm or the motivation to do the stuff that you've been doing, but now it's just not making sense. That is essentially the state of burnout, and I'll go on with the signs and how you can counter them, and I'll talk about the signs and how you can counter them just in a little while. Now, if you feel that you are burning out, it's really important that you go see a specialist or some psychologist of some sort. I still recommend you doing that, but if this podcast could teach or share some insights on how you can deal with it yourself, then please deal with it now, because this is a lot more common than you think. And if you're experiencing this, I really, really hope that this could help you in some way. And if you are not experiencing this, please still continue to listen, because again, this is a lot more common than we think. And if you are not experiencing it right now, you may experience it in the future. So it's better for you to know how you can counter it, or you may know someone in your life that may be going through this kinds of stuff. So it's important for you to share this and actually know how to handle and maybe help them along the way. And please continue to listen to this. I really believe that this is very, very valuable in today's generation. So before we go on how to counter them, let's first look at the different signs that you are experiencing a burnout. So the first sign that is very, very common and very, very obvious is, number one, exhaustion. You feel exhausted every single time. From the moment you wake up, whether you had 7 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, or 9 hours of sleep, you still are feeling tired. From the moment you wake up, you don't have the energy to do the stuff that you usually do. You're mentally and physically tired. You just want to lay down and rest. You try to sneak more sleep, or just laying down in particular. You just want to rest, right? You don't have energy. You know that you don't have the energy, or that's what your brain is telling you. You don't have the energy to do the usual stuff that you have been doing previously, right? So that's the first thing that you got to look out. If you feel exhausted, physically and mentally and emotionally exhausted, and you just don't want to do stuff, that's the first sign you got to look out. The second sign is the lack of motivation. You feel that nothing will make a difference. You feel that you cannot perform in the same way that you have performed in the previous weeks or the previous months. There's a change of motivational level from your previous self to your current self. You feel overwhelmed all the time, that you have these things and tasks and goals that you have to reach, but you don't have the energy to do it, and you feel demotivated as ever, as if that you cannot do anything that you want to do. You don't have that motivation to actually push through with the goals and the tasks that you previously assigned and you could easily do before. You have that demotivational feeling inside of you. That's the second sign that you need to look out. The third sign is you are more pessimistic than before. You're sending more negative aura and more negative vibes towards the people around you. You are more irate, you're irritable. Simple things make you frustrated. You get angry at petty things. So you get frustrated at the small things. You get frustrated at a lot of things that you don't usually get frustrated at. Or you just go with the flow and accept things that it is. But right now, you're just getting frustrated at every single thing that is not in the way you want it to happen. You just get frustrated easily. And you usually have a lot of breakdowns. You're constantly down on yourself, and usually you send it out to the people around you. So you're a lot more pessimistic than before. That's the third sign that you got to look out. Now, the fourth sign is you are not taking care of yourself. Most of the times, people who are experiencing burnout are using different are getting addicted to something that takes their pain away, whether it's smoking or drinking or binge watching, or they're just not as healthy as before. That's one way that you can see that you're smoking twice as before. You're drinking twice as before. You are trying to channel the frustration that's inside of you into something that you are addicted to, whether it's computer games or smoking. You just get addicted to something. I cannot pinpoint what. It differs from one person to another person, but you can see that you're not taking care of yourself. Your diet is all over the place. You're not doing any exercise. You're not getting enough sleep. That's the first thing to observe on someone who is not taking care of him or herself. You're not getting enough sleep. So that's the fourth sign that you need to look out. So the fifth sign is you have a lot of problems in your relationships. And whether it's a relationship with your mother or your father, or you're with your brothers and sisters, or with your girlfriend or boyfriend, your relationships have a lot of problems when you are experiencing a burnout. And I believe that this is, I don't know what law or what effect that is in psychology, but you know, when you feel that when something's not working for you, when something's not working for you and life gives you more reason to see that everything is not working for you. It's like when you're having a bad day and you just feel that one bad thing, and that bad thing leads to another bad thing, and that bad thing and leads to another bad thing, and you just feel that everything is out of control. This is the same thing with people experiencing burnout. When they feel burnout on one particular thing, they don't see that their frustration in their chosen career or in their field that they feel the burnout, they don't see that their frustration, and usually your relationships takes the collateral damage for that, and you don't consciously choose to bring it to them, but that's what happens. You subconsciously bring the frustration in your career or your school into the relationships that you have, and you will feel that you have a lot more arguments with the relationships that you have around you. So if you see that, that's another sign of you experiencing a burnout. So yeah. So those are the 5 signs that you need to look out for when you're experiencing a burnout. And when you see someone that is portraying these signs, they may be experiencing a burnout. So you gotta look out for them. You gotta watch out for these signs. And once you feel that you are feeling a burnout, the first thing you need to do is actually acknowledge that you are experiencing a burnout. Acceptance that something needs to be worked on, because the more you reject the idea that you're not having the burnout, the longer you'll get to actually resolving it. So the first thing you need to do is actually accepting that you are experiencing a burnout, or that someone that you have around you is experiencing a burnout. So acceptance is the first key. Now, what will you do after that? What can you do to counter this feeling of burnout? Now, these are tips that are scientifically proven. I might not give the reference to it, but there are articles in the internet. If you want to search more on this, just go to Google or YouTube and actually research more on these tips that I'm going to give to you. But I assure you that these tips can help you alleviate or counter that burnout that you are feeling. So let's head on to the first thing that you need to do. You need to set time for yourself to take a breather. Whether it's a walk or listening to a music or watching a series, take conscious breather. Set time for you to actually breathe. And this is very important. You need to set time. Pick 1 hour a day or 5 minutes per hour, or 1 hour per day that you can actually take a breather. Literally breathe. Practice your breathing patterns, because this not only calms your mind, this also teaches your mind that you have a sense of time, or you have control over your time. Because when we are burnt out, we feel that there's so many things to do and you have so little time to do it. But what we don't realize or we don't see is that we're just feeling overwhelmed. So the first thing we need to do when we feel overwhelmed is to take a breather. Hinga ka lang. Pagod ka, hinga ka lang. It doesn't need to be a grand vacation or away or to the beach. If you can do that, if that fits your time, then that's better. Pero for a lot of people, their busy schedules won't allow that. So what you can do is to take a breather, just 1 hour per day that you can breathe. Just breathe and slow the time and let yourself realize that you have control over your time. So it really helps to take a breather. Take a conscious breather. Let your mind know that you are still in control with your life, with the hours that you spend living your life, and take a breather when you do that. So take a breather. That's the first thing you need to do. The second thing that you need to do is Stay off your phone as much as you can. Stop looking other people's lives because you're already overwhelmed with your own life, and you looking at other people's lives, whether they're experiencing positive things or negative things. There's a study that says social media amplifies our emotions. So if we're feeling happy and blessed and grateful and all of that positive emotions, when we go on social media, we tend to be happier, to be more grateful, and it goes on the other side, and it goes the same way around. If we feel negative emotions such as stress and discomfort and just the feeling of burnout, and when we go to social media, that tends to amplify our stress. If we are focusing on the negative things, we'll be able to only see the negative things on social media, and it amplifies our stress. So the second thing you need to do is to stay away from your phone as much as possible. You need to find a way to reset without worsening the problem. And for example, when you feel burned out, you're not happy with your performance, you're not satisfied with how you are doing with your work and in your school, and when you are in social media, you're wasting a lot of time on social media, and in the end, after you scrolled on the feed on Twitter, on Facebook and Instagram, after that you'll feel that you lost time, and you'll again feel that you don't have control over your day, your hours, and that leaves you to being more frustrated, and the burnout cycle continues. You'll feel more burned out in the end. Make sense? Okay. So the third thing that you need to do to counter burnout is get enough sleep. Did you know that having 2.5 hours of sleep per day is as unhealthy as smoking 12 cigarettes per day? That's how unhealthy it is. If you're not getting enough sleep, then you are as unhealthy as you can be. So that's basically the third thing that you need to do. Get enough sleep. Not too much sleep. Don't sleep too much, because then you'll feel that you wasted a lot of time sleeping. You just need to get adequate and enough sleep. Because if you're not, the oxygen that your brain needs to function as the competitive brain that it is. So you need to take that into account and take that in very slowly. And if you are not sleeping, you're not getting enough sleep, you're practically killing yourself. So what you need to do is to get back on track slowly. And one of the ways that you could physically get back on track is getting your sleep on its right track as well. So you need to have enough sleep. And if you can take care of your physical aspect, it can create a butterfly effect or a domino effect on your mental health. So one thing that you could easily control is your physical health, and getting enough sleep is one way to do that. So please get enough sleep. The fourth thing that you need to do when you're experiencing a burnout is to stop multitasking. You are feeling overwhelmed for most of the times, right? So the least thing that you need to do is multitask. You need to let your mind and body know that it can finish tasks. And when you multitask, you'll get a lot less stuff done. I'm not a fan of people who can multitask. I think that there's no such thing as multitasking. I think that there's just people who can't concentrate on one task at a time. And I believe that multitasking is the same with catching two rabbits at the same time. And you can't catch two rabbits at the same time. You catch one rabbit and then you go catch the other rabbit. Because when you try to catch both rabbits at the same time, you'll end up catching none. So that's the same thing for me. And you need to let your mind and body know that you can finish one task. That's all you need to need. You can finish the small task, and then once your mind know that you can finish a small task, you can now go to the medium task and the large tasks, right? So you need to stop multitasking. You need to focus on one task and one task only. So that's the fourth one. So the last advice that I could give to you is to reach out to people. Find someone, just one person who can listen to you. He or she doesn't need to take the burnout away to fix all of your problems, but you need someone to talk to vent out. And if you've tried, and I know some stories that have tried to reach out to the people around them, and it ends up with them being more burnt out because they'll just get responses from people that adds to their feeling, and that's the least you want. You gotta to choose one person that just needs to listen, not that someone who will not answer, who will not try to solve your problems, who just needs to listen. Because believe it or not, for most of the times that we try to share our problems, we just want someone to listen. We're not asking for advice. For most of the times, we know what we need to do, but we just need to let it out. Let off some steam. And if you're not getting it from your current circle or your current friends, please, I advise you to find the circle that will listen, because there are people that will listen, believe it or not. And those are the 5 things that you can do that hopefully can reduce or remove that feeling of burnout. Now you can search them on the internet and learn more on how you can counter burnout. And if these are somewhat vague to you, or these came to you as something not that clear, then please, I advise you to do more research and take care of your mental health. Take care of yourself, because this issue is not something to be taken lightly. This will most likely lead to depression. So please, if you can fix this now, if you find a way to remove that feeling of burnout, to counter that feeling of burnout, please do it. Take care of yourself, and I hope that some of the tips that I gave can help you out. And before I finish this episode, I posted out on my Instagram the question of the episode, and the question of the episode for this episode is, how do you deal with burnouts? And I'll share here some of the insights that I got. So here are some insights. Deandra Beat said, take a breather. That's short and that's simple, but I totally agree with it. It's like the first thing that I told you guys earlier. Take a breather. XX Came Possible said, I travel for a little escape from reality plus cold beer. Well, traveling essentially helps you out. I don't think beer can help you out with your burnouts. If it will just lead you more. So I'm not sure with the beer part. But traveling, yes, I agree on that wholly. Go if you could afford, or your time and your schedule fits for you to have to go on the beach or to travel somewhere else than where you are right now, please do that. I really think that it could help too. Now Mojo Joey says, try to focus on other things first and try to look at it differently. If you stress out, it will get out of hand. Yes, I agree, and I feel that if your mind feels that you don't have control over your life, it essentially goes into panic mode. So and that's the least thing that you want for your mind to do. So to try to focus on the small things first, and get some perspective. Listen to podcasts or other YouTube videos that could essentially help you with your feeling of burnout. Get some coaching or help from other people. That's what I said earlier, right? So yeah, thank you Mojo Joey for that answer. And Jean Paolo 0807 said that remind yourself that you are only human. You can't do anything. You can't do everything all at once. Okay, don't forget to rest. Also, taking a break doesn't mean that you are quitting. Yes, there are I really believe that taking a break is something that we don't usually do because we were raised in a society where hustle. The harder you work is the more rewards you will reap after. But we forget how important it is to take a break. And I really like the last line that Paulo said. It's taking a break doesn't mean that you're quitting. So please remember that taking a break doesn't mean that you are quitting. That's all the insights that I got. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on my Instagram page. Please watch out for the next question of the episode that I will post later, maybe this week. And I hope you guys give some insightful answers to that as well. And thank you again, guys, for joining the podcast. And I hope that everyone who listened here can get and I really hope that everyone who listened here can benefit from the insights that you guys shared and the insights that I shared as well. So again, thank you all so much for listening. I'll end the podcast right here. Medyo mahaba na yung podcast pala. I'll try to snip it down to 25 minutes, but let's see how it goes. But yun lang. Again, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. So if you haven't followed the official Instagram page of this podcast, please follow it on @smalltalkpodcast and click the subscribe button here on Spotify if you haven't yet, so you can get updated every time I upload a new video or a new podcast episode. Sorry, I got it from the vlog. So essentially that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If this had any impact on you, please share it with the people that you love and to the people that you genuinely care about. Again, this is Alec Cuenca. This is Small Talk Podcast. Have a great night. Have a great evening. Have a great day ahead of you. Have a great week ahead of you. And I hope you have a great life ahead of you. Peace. Talk to you soon.